Has issued in the Russia probe show the congressional investigation is now bending its spotlight back onto the Obama-era intelligence people.
What does the UN ambassador do? She's a diplomat. She should have had nothing to do with this unless it was for political purposes.
President Trump wouldn't tip his hand on which way he'll go on the Paris Climate Accord.
You're getting out.
You're going to find out very soon.
I sincerely apologize.
Well, sorry, Kathy Griffin, all is not forgiven.
CNN brought down the hammer, pulling her from their annual New Year's Eve show.
The media looked like they covered Trump's typo more than they covered his beheading, which says a lot about them.
Well, Hillary Clinton unplugged.
This was the biggest nothing burger ever. At some point, it sort of bleeds over into misogyny. I take responsibility for every decision I made, but that's not why I lost.
Her transformation into full Nixonian bitterness is complete.
It's game on. Yeah, and that, of course, is tomorrow's going to be the concert series, and those are the picnic tables that's going to be packed. We actually, this year, we grew our own grass. That is not artificial turf. So this is what makes it really exciting.
I mean, Brian goes out and mows.
A lot of these fans want to be on natural grass.
It's true. And speaking of game on, tonight is game one of the NBA Finals as well.
Right. And you know what? We have not seen these teams play except for the last 3 years.
Okay. And we have a guest on the Curvy Couch that you have yet to introduce.
Sorry about that.
Mark Stein joins us, author, journalist, fills in for Rush Limbaugh.
And that is great grass. That's better than centre court at Wimbledon. It's I don't like to walk across the AstroTurf when I come to
I saw you checking it before.
Yeah,
I saw you out there.
Beautifully manicured. Beautifully manicured.
So we've been covering Hillary Clinton going off the rails and blaming everyone but herself. We've got a montage of things she said yesterday. Take a listen.
My email account was turned into, the biggest scandal since Lord knows when. This was the biggest nothing burger ever. It was a mistake. I've said it was a mistake, but the way that it was used was very damaging. I know you had Dean Baquet here from the New York Times yesterday, and they covered it like it was Pearl Harbor. It was always a hard issue to put to bed, but we put it to bed in July, and then it rose up again. I inherit nothing from the Democratic Party. It was bankrupt. It was on the verge of insolvency. Its data was mediocre to poor, non-existent, wrong. I had to inject money into it.
This is the DNC.
The DNC to keep it going. He really understands how to inflame people, how to motivate them, how to bond with them over whatever their grievance is. Whatever resentment or point of anger that you may have, if he can get into it, whether it's race or sex or xenophobia or anti-Islamophobia, whatever it is.
Mark, where do we start on this?
Well, my favorite bit was when she blamed the crack Macedonian operatives who were, apparently it makes more sense to spend $200 on crack Macedonian operatives than spend $1 billion on John Podesta and all the rest of it. Apart from the Macedoniophobia, I thought it was pathetic. The rap on Trump as he was campaigning, we were talking about it beforehand, was that he just stumbled around, he didn't know what he was doing.
No plan.
Now we're told that apparently it was all this crack data mining operation that Trump had that said, there's a swing county in Ohio that's really just itching for a terrific John McCain joke right now. And the idea that this is the guy who won by basically tearing up the rule book, they can't believe it.
Do you realize as she went through everything, she was going through the deplorable list?
Right.
Remember the big mistakes she made?
Yeah.
She was doing it again. She says he touches the underbelly of America.
She believes it.
Well, she's also insulting those people that, again.
Yeah, I know, and the idea is it can't be a genuine connection because these rubes are too stupid. They have to have been suckered into falling for Trump. The fact is, it's not even a Democrat-Republican thing. You could see when last time round that Obama, whatever you felt about him, connected with the people he spoke with in a way that Mitt Romney, it didn't come naturally to him.
Absolutely not.
This time round, Hillary didn't connect. People left a Hillary rally, which is an oxymoronic term, more depressed than when they went in.
The thing that I walked away from her blaming the DNC, because of course she's going to blame other people. She says her server, that's a nothing burger. I didn't win because of the Trump people and the deplorables, the underbelly. But then she said the DNC was bankrupt. And thanks to me, the DNC exists because I was funding it. I was injecting money. Does this hurt the Dems?
Well, it hurts them insofar as the only reason, the idea that some Saudi prince gives Bill Clinton $2 million for a speech on diarrhea in Africa so that Hillary can then give the $2 million to prop up the DNC. At the time, we were told that the DNC had the great ground game, the great data mining, and Trump had no ground game. He was just winging it, and again, it's the complete opposite of everything they said at the time.
And did she really believe that the server's a nothing burger? Did she really say, this is just me using...
She did.
Well, by the way, kafifi is Russian for nothing burger.
Right.
That's what Trump's giving the game away there. Yeah.
All right. Les, I just want to bring this up. She also, when asked, why did you give those speeches to Goldman Sachs? Right. She goes, why? Oh, they were asked, a man can do it, but a woman can't. What is that? Really? It's sexist now? What are you talking about?
No. Again, it's this disconnect. She was a terrible candidate. There's places where the wife of the previous guy runs for president, and they're banana republics. I got nothing against women leaders. I'm not a sexist. Canada's had one prime minister. Britain's had two. Australia's had one. New Zealand's had one. Germany, Scandinavia, all the rest of them. The difference is they weren't entitlement candidates who felt they were entitled to be the head of government.
That's a big difference.
Today at 3 o'clock in the Rose Garden, the President of the United States is going to give us his decision on whether we stay in this parent climate agreement with almost 200 other nations. What do you think he's going to do?
I would love it if he were to pull out, because to me this sums up the absolute decadence of the political class. You know, if you're blown up at an Ariana Grande concert, the mayor of London and the Prime Minister of France say, get used to it, that's just the way it is, we can't do anything about it. But if you want us to lower the thermostat of the planet by 1/3 of a degree in the year 2100, that we can do.
Spending trillions.
Yeah, spending trillions to do it. It's bonkers. Fix the Ariana Grande problem. You should be able to do that, and if that works out, then adjust the planet.
Is that the perfect dichotomy of the future, that you've got the left calling conservatives climate deniers, but conservatives pointing and saying, well, of course, you're Islamist deniers.
Right. And in 2100, I think in 2100 we'll know who was right. Those of us who worried about what's happening at things like the Ariana Grande thing, or those who worried about the planet will be fine. It'll shrug off your SUV and your air conditioner without a thought, as it has for thousands of years.
But we have seen what China is. That is a country that's ignored all type of pollution regulations or common sense. We don't want that, but we're not there. Now, people on the flip side will say, listen, if the U.S. stays in, they'll be able to make sure people don't go off the ledge with severe economic principles.
Listen to this, and we'll get your reaction.
It would send to the rest of the world a message that the United States does not care about this planet that we all share.
This is no longer, oh, he's doing his thing. This is endangering the world.
If we stand alone to face this global crisis, it's more than reckless. I mean, we are really endangering the planet, the American people, and our economy at a really fragile stage.
We're fragile.
It's a ridiculous, it's not a serious agreement, and neither was Kyoto. And as far as I'm aware, the only country that actually took Kyoto seriously was New Zealand, and they tried to honor it, and it nearly bankrupted them, so they had to pull out. All the other people just went along as a joke, and the joke gesture politics is what Trump ran against. Trump is supposed to be the guy who stands up against these pathetic joke international gesture attitude.
Is there a big risk if he does stay in it? Is there a political risk for him if he does stay in it after he ran against it?
I think there is, because this isn't even a tough call. It's a meaningless agreement. It's a poser agreement. It's actually one of the worst things about what you might call the European unionization of the world, where leaders just strike attitudes and stand there looking pleased with themselves. You know, well, that's what it is. That's the full Kafifi right there.
That's the full nothing burger.
Stepping back, why is climate change the religion of the left?
I think precisely because it is so meaningless. Because if you say to them, "Oh, let's enforce the border," what, are you out of your mind? We can't. That's just a natural phenomenon. We couldn't have enforced the border. People are going to be coming in anyway. But if you say to them, "Well, we can control the very heavens," you know, that we can do, and it's actually literally insane. The less it has to do with your life, the more the left is invested in it,
and the more spending it requires.
Yeah.
And control.
Thank you so
Mark.
much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
Good job, Mark.
Let's hand it over to Jillian, who has some headlines for us. Good morning.
That's right. Good Thursday morning at 10 minutes past the hour right now. Let's get to a Fox News alert. At least one person is dead and 2 are missing after a corn milling plant explodes with several workers inside. Smoke pouring out of the decimated building in rural Wisconsin. Firefighters and ambulances rushing to help late last night. At least a dozen people are hurt. It's unclear what sparked the blast. To another Fox News alert, incredible images just come in of U.S. warships conducting dual exercises. The USS Vinson and USS Reagan carriers conducting training together in the Sea of Japan. It comes just days after North Korea launched another missile into the same area. The Pacific Command says the exercise helps ready troops for any possible conflict and to help protect Korea and Japan. And this as we see brand new stunning video of the military testing a missile defense system meant to protect Americans against threats from North Korea. The USS says a fake nuke over the Pacific Ocean. And now terrifying new video showing heavily armed cops boarding a plane after a man allegedly threatened to blow it up. The Malaysia Airlines flight forced to turn around moments after taking off from the Melbourne airport in Australia. Authorities say passengers tackled the man after he stormed the cockpit claiming to have a bomb.
Everyone in the seats. Everybody put your hands down.
The suspect has a history of mental illness and is facing charges. One of America's most popular mascots just got fired. Mr. Met in really hot water after flipping off a fan at last night's game at Citi Field in New York. It's not clear what got him so mad. The team issuing a statement saying, quote, "We apologize for the inappropriate action of this employee. We do not condone this type of behavior. We're dealing with this matter internally. The man inside the costume is out of a job, and guys considering him from Philadelphia, I could also get myself in trouble." I'm just going to leave it there.
But I'm wondering, if Mr. Met is reprimanded, does he have to take the reprimand in his outfit?
Ooh, in his outfit? He should.
Do you yell at him while he's wearing his hat?
What would be his argument back?
Because they won't talk. We got you on tape.
That's why
they did lose, and people have to express themselves.
I mean, just replace the guy inside. We'll never know.
When your mascot turns on the fans, things are bad. It's
right.
Bad, right?
Yeah.
Just get a happier guy to be inside there.
That's what happens when Cespedes gets hurt. People just lose their mind.
Who gets hurt?
Didn't we have Mr. Met on? We had Mr. Met on when the season started. He was a nice guy.
You don't know? He's not allowed to talk.
Right.
His hand motions were nice.
He did not give you the finger when he was here.
Correct.
That's good. All right, straight ahead. The Russian investigation circling back to the Obama administration. It doesn't look good so far. A live report from Washington next.
And America, prepare yourself. Joe Biden is back.
A man who will be the next president of the United States, Barack America.
Oh, that's so funny. What the former vice president is doing today that is sparking rumors he's not giving up hope for a White House run. Barack America.
Barack America.
Anything could happen. Anything could happen. Anything could happen. Anything could happen. Anything.
The FBI, CIA, and National Security Agency all hit with subpoenas over the unmasking of President Trump's campaign team.
The House Intelligence Committee demanding information on requests made by top Obama officials.
Wow, Griff Jenkins live in D.C. with the details of a new name just thrown into the fire, I guess. Right, Griff?
That's right, guys. A total of 7 subpoenas coming out of the House Intelligence Committee, 3 including the FBI, the CIA, and the National Security Agency, referencing the unmasking of Americans and naming 3 senior Obama-era officials, most notably President Obama's former UN Ambassador Samantha Power, whose name has not previously surfaced in the unmasking controversy. House investigators tell Fox News that they are devoting greater scrutiny to Power now because they believe her role in the unmasking was much larger than previously known, and her naming may now explain this exchange last week between former CIA Director John Brennan and Congressman Trey Gowdy.
Do you recall any U.S. ambassadors asking that names be unmasked?
I don't know. Maybe it's ringing a vague bell, but I could not answer with any confidence.
Brennan is also named in the subpoena. You'll recall he decried the leaks of that classified information in testimony. And former National Security Advisor Susan Rice, who allegedly requested the unmasking of Trump associates that appeared in classified intelligence reports, Rice has denied any wrongdoing. The other 4 subpoenas duplicate those of the Senate Intelligence Committee regarding Russian meddling and include former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and President Trump's personal attorney Michael Cohen. And President Trump is already weighing in this morning on Twitter saying, quote, "The big story is the unmasking and surveillance of people that took place during the Obama administration." Guys, no question about the meaning of that tweet, and there's no timeline yet on the testimony of any of those subpoenas.
Very much so. Griff Jenkins, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, so is the mainstream media so eager to take down the president, they are actually helping the Russians undermine the U.S.? Our next guest says yes, and he's got the proof. One of the nation's top investigative journalists is on deck.
And more winning. What's happening today that the president can check off as another campaign promise fulfilled? We'll explain.
Delivered to you. Welcome back to Fox and Friends. Some quick headlines for you. A California lawmaker proposing a new plan that would replace insurance companies, you get it, with government-funded health care. The system would be funded with a sales tax hike and a new tax on business revenue. The state Senate's deadline to vote on the bill is tomorrow. We know the left wants single-payer health care. And NASA announcing a mission to, quote, touch the sun. Next year, the agency will send an unmanned spacecraft into the massive star's atmosphere for the first time ever. NASA is looking to better understand the sun, like its effects on weather, things like sunspots here on Earth. Brian?
Hey, that is so cool. Meanwhile, is the mainstream media so eager to take down President Trump, they're actually helping the Russians undermine the U.S.? Our next guest says yes. Ronald Kessler is an award-winning investigative journalist and
New York Times bestselling author of The Secrets of the FBI. He joins us now, as you can see, from our nation's capital. Thank you so much, Ron, for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right, so you're saying that mainstream media, they're not telling the truth, and you have some examples. I was reading this example that you gave us earlier. You said the Washington Post ran a story and says the FBI has determined that an aide close to Donald Trump is a person of interest in the Russia investigation. And then you go on to say anybody who knows the FBI knows they don't even use that phrase, person of interest.
That's right, except in kidnapping cases, they simply don't do that, and anybody who knows the FBI knows that that term simply does not exist when it comes to a counterintelligence investigation. And this is an example of the false stories being planted by the Russians, because the Russians encrypt their communications. So whenever these communications are picked up, that means by definition that the Russians purposely put them out, purposely crafted the conversation or staged the conversation with Trump aides and Russian officials.
On an open line.
So, and this is part of the disinformation campaign that the Russians began with the election and is now even more intense. As part of that, the Russians plant these false stories. They use cutouts, they use anonymous letters, they use journalists who are being paid by the Russians. The story that Jared Kushner met with Russians was first given to the Washington Post through an anonymous letter, almost certainly sent by the Russians. And then the media is so out to get Trump that they will run them without proper verification, as was the case with the story you mentioned. The most amazing thing is that the former CIA Director John Brennan and the former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper had testified that these conversations that they saw between the Russians and the Trump aides were troubling. Well, guess what? They're so gullible that they don't understand that, of course, if they can read them, because even a 14-year-old can get encryption software that the FBI can penetrate. And just one more thing. What I'm saying is all verified and confirmed by a former FBI Assistant Director for International Operations, his name is Tom Fuentes. And he happens to be a CNN senior law enforcement analyst, but he believes he cannot say this on the CNN air because it totally harpoons the whole narrative that CNN has been running, that Donald Trump is part of the Russian Empire, even though he sent missiles into Syria against Russian interests.
Right. But do you believe, having said everything you said and think the Russians are playing a role, from what you know, how angry is the FBI, and do you believe they're going to bat for Comey to turn on this president?
No, the FBI is very professional, and you know they're always in the crosshairs from some side or another side, being attacked one way or another.